how important is mindset when you're navigating this uncertain markets or any uncertainty in your own life as well? I think that's what
Mindset's
is the
critical.
key thing that drives you.
Yeah, mindset is critical, and I will look out for it. If you notice, the people I surround myself with consistently, they're beasts. They're absolute and total beasts. Like, people will just say it is insane. Like, they look at a project and they're not saying, will this project turn out well? They're saying, I won't stop until this project turns out well. So they'll do their underwriting, they'll do their due diligence, they'll ask their 600 questions, but once they're locked in and committed to a project, they're going to go through hellfire and every other element to make
Mhm.
sure it comes to fruition. And I'd say mindset is critical there because you can literally have I've been my own worst enemy with like being self-conscious about things, and it was really interesting.
Some investors win when market is hard and disappear when things shift. And then there are those who seem to win no matter what market is doing. This is not a pure luck because while many focus on the timing the market, but the truth is markets will always change. And the real question comes, can your strategy survive every cycle and still grow your wealth? The investors who understand this do not just survive cycles, they use them to build long term wealth and generational wealth. And today we are unpacking exactly how that works. I am joined by my good friend, a best selling author, and a fifth generation real estate investor who brings a rare multi generational perspective to build wealth through commercial real estate. Her journey blends legacy, strategy, and real world execution across evolving market cycles. Welcome, Adi, to the Wealth Wife Show. Super excited to have you.
I thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And today our topic is winning in real estate across market cycles. So let's start. Growing up in a fifth generation real estate family, what did you see differently about wealth that most people miss?
So what's interesting, and I didn't realize how rare this was until much later in life, is most of the conversation around the dinner table over breakfast on the weekends, most of the conversations we heard our parents having in the car, everywhere, it was always about real estate. It was always about real estate. It was always about, oh, this type of asset isn't doing well right now. This project isn't. We have this problem with this strategic partner. We just solved this thing with this person by giving their daughter a job in there. And it was always I was always behind the scenes, and I didn't realize how much of an edge that gave me until decades later.
Wow.
And then like my parents, like a deal would go south and they would vent to us, and we were kids at the time, and they'd be like, never buy an asset that's more than an hour from an airport or something like that. And they thought they were just like, they were frustrated because something had just fallen apart, and they were like venting to us by saying never do this. But then like decades later someone presented a project to me and I was like, no. They're like, why not? It was like, it's more than an hour from an international airport. They were like, so? And it was like, so there's going to be no tourism there. There's going to be no international business done there because international business people don't fly and then have to drive 9 hours. I was like, so you're not going to have a strong demographic magnet there. They were like, how did you know that? It's like, well,
Was
when
it
I was
great?
12. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So take us through your journey, because this was just growing up. You were learning by default about the real estate, but real estate was not your first gig, right? Like we were talking before the
No.
recording. So eventually you got to real estate. So there has to be some defining moment for you. Okay, no, this is it. Even though I've been learning about real estate from the very beginning, but now I
Yeah.
think this is my focus. But take us through that journey, please.
Okay, so my father's trade, because everyone has a trade. Like they have something they invest in, and they have something they do to make money to put into the thing they
Mhm.
invest in, right? So
Mhm.
my father was a commercial architect. He was second generation commercial architect. His brother is a commercial real estate attorney, and then his other brother was a building code inspector. So between the three of them, they could very quickly move through and get things built because they owned every piece on the chessboard. When I was a really young child, I was told I'm going to be a third generation commercial architect. And I would go with my father to job sites. I would sit in business and board meetings. I would go with him to city hall planning meetings. I remember I was like 8 or 9 years old at my first city hall planning meeting, and I thought it was
Wow.
so cool. And and the commissioner, my father sat down with me, and the commissioner like pointed to me. And he's like, "Who is this?" He was like, "That's my daughter." And he was like, "What is she doing here?" And he was like, "She wanted to come." And the commissioner looks at me and was like, "You wanted to be here?" And it was like, yeah. And he was like, "Okay, proceed." And then went back to the meeting because like he was just blown away that like a
Mhm.
child less than 10 years old wanted to sit there and hear how decisions were being made for developing the city. So
Mhm.
I grew up with that. And then the 2008 recession, actually hit architects 4 years before.
Mhm.
So it hit in 2002, and I was supposed to go to college in 2006. So the plan was I was going to the same university as my father. I was applying to go to Rhode
Mhm.
Island School of Design. I was going to get my degree in architecture, come back, and that was it. Like my entire life was planned out. Well, when the recession happened, um, that his main architectural firm ended up with there were some very bad deals. It ended up with my parents getting divorced, my father losing a key asset because he was arguing with both his brother and my mother, and a few key people stabbing him in the back. And he came home one day and he's like, "I don't care what you study, you are never going into real estate development." And I was just like, "Oh my God, like my entire life has been prepping to go to college to do what you do. What do you mean I could do anything but that?" So
Mhm.
it was my junior year of high school. And I call one of my, unfortunately, I'm the middle of 80. Like I have a lot of older cousins. So
Uh-huh.
I called a few of my older cousins and was like, "Yo, what'd you study in college?" I was like, "I know you told me which school you're at, but could you just remind me?" And so then I like quickly like went through everything they were studying, the schools that they were at, and I just applied to their schools. Like that was it. That was my plan. And so of the schools I applied to, most of them that I applied to that I like picked myself where I didn't have a relative, they were in New York City because I grew up right outside
Mhm.
the city.
Mhm.
And then I did one application to this school in South Florida where my cousin lived and was attending school. And I got in there. They had good scholarships. My mother loved the area because it's like a very solid family office area down here. So she was like, "You'll be in a good bubble. You'll be by good people." I hung out a lot with the Koch family, and Wyatt Koch, his father, was like just as strict as mine. So like
Mhm.
our things were playing tennis or going to the country club. Like we didn't have like a crazy college experience. Um,
Mhm.
so when I got to PBA, they didn't have they my grandfather changed the conditions of my trust, so I had to either study business, law, or medicine.
Mhm.
So I picked the school first, and then their law program was terrible, and I didn't like anyone in their law program. I was like, "I'm not studying with
Mhm.
these guys for 4 years."
Mhm.
Their business school, everyone was just there to party, and I was a retired professional athlete. Like I wasn't into partying. I was like, "Why would I drink poison? That's illogical." And so then I went to pre med, and right when I was there, they launched this new program called medicinal and biological chemistry
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
because they had started to pour more into the funding into their pharmaceutical school.
Mhm.
So I liked those people because they liked math and health. Like that's what the biochemists were, and it was like they play
Mhm.
sports. They're like into intense sports. They're into fitness. They're into but they study. They like work hard, play hard. So I picked my degree based on who I'd be hanging out with, and that's how I ended up with a degree in medicinal and biological chemistry.
Oh, wow. Wow. From architect to medicine and biochemistry and now back to real estate, right? So
Yeah.
how did
So
that transition happen? Mhm.
so then what happened is halfway through college, the recession completely hit the U.S. market. The U.S. market completely bottomed out, and all of my trust, all of the shares that because my trust was in shares in the specific bank that went under,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it so what ended up happening is my final 2 years of college, I had an option. I could either come home and work for my parents in,
Mm-hmm.
which was now went from being like a 25-person law or a 25-person architectural firm to being a 2-person office, or I could pay my final years of college. So I got approved to work 10 hours a week in the biochem lab. I got approved to do tutoring and babysitting in Palm Beach to some of the kids at the prep school. I got shifts waiting tables, and I took every spare minute I had in between all of that and maintaining my athletic scholarship through the dance school. I took an internship with it was a guerrilla marketing company. She had never done anything in business before, and here I came from a family office where I was like, my chores were like going and running blueprints or going and like seeing what
Oh,
was,
like,
yeah, running, working back admin and going to meetings in a office whose clients were Porsche, Mercedes, Land Rover, like the big brands around Manhattan. So I didn't realize that that had prepped me to be way overqualified for the internship. So she gets her first strategic partner who's going to bankroll the startup because it's a guerrilla marketing startup. And it was like, you realize she's lining you up to commit intellectual property theft. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, intellectual property theft, like this is what you have as your intellectual property. So this is what's the most valuable thing for your company. And she's lining you up to be able to take that from you. She's not going to be your co-founder and partner. She's going to steal your intellectual property. And she was like, tell me what's going to happen next if that's what she's doing. And it was like, well, when you guys have a meeting, she's going to ask for these assets and say she needs them. She's going to take those. And she was like, okay, I don't think she's lining me up for that, but I'll let you know. And like a week later, she was like, oh my God, you were right. How did you know? And so I went from being like this intern that she would like make dresses on because then she had like these guerrilla marketing fashion shows
mm-hmm.
to being her
Mm-hmm.
right hand in all of the meetings because I had literally saved her company from like going non-existent. And so then I got to work on projects with Porsche, Target, Whole Foods, and Disney. And then
Oh,
when I graduated from college, I moved to Italy because the recession, the market hadn't recovered
right,
here.
right.
And I got a job running an Apple sales channel in Italy because they were
Italy.
like, I was like, I don't think I'm going to get this. I'm not even like, I'm only 23 years old.
Uh-huh.
There's no way, like, I'm the youngest person there. And they picked me, and I was like, why? And they were like, you're the only person who applied who's worked with Fortune 500s. And I didn't realize because I grew up going to the Porsche dealership, going to the Land Rover dealership, going to Mercedes, like going to the Hibachi Steakhouse, like going to all these job sites with my father. Like I didn't realize it was a big deal to have worked with Fortune 500s because like my parents had set the bar there. So I was just meeting
Exactly.
the
So high.
bar. Yeah. So that's where like your parents set your glass ceiling. And I was like, okay, well, they worked with those companies. So those are the companies we should work with. So that's what lined me up when I applied to Apple. They were like, you're the only one who's done this. And I thought everyone had done that. And then when I was at Apple, I doubled sales in a year without touching the marketing budget.
Wow. So I think you had lots and lots of experiences, you know. If I
Yeah.
compare your journey to an average person, you know, average, like you say, like your friends or your colleagues, they were already, you know, commenting on your journey. They were just saying that, oh my God, you're doing this, you're doing that. But you were like so open. I think your mindset, your training from the very childhood or the grooming upbringing was like so different. And you were like exposed to so many things. So whatever came your way, and you just took a chance. You didn't care. You didn't give it a second thought. You know, like, okay, I'm gonna do it because I know on the back of my mind I'm gonna do it. Right? That's how I
Yeah.
hear. That's how the journey was. So now you stepped into real estate. You know,
Oh, yeah.
after
Okay.
all
So,
this,
yeah. So then,
what was
so
that like?
yeah. So I used Apple. I didn't realize that was a big deal. I got into one of the top business schools in the world where I found out that that was it wasn't until I got into business school that I found out that this was a huge deal and like no one else had done it. And then after that, I worked on projects with a bunch of different software companies, built my own software company, built my own media company, wrote my book that was a bestseller. And then my father, after the book hit #2 bestseller in the US, he said, "Are you done yet? Like, are you ready to come back to real
Yeah.
estate?" And after that, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready to come home, because I
Mhm.
spoke with a gentleman. He was the commissioner of international affairs at the time,
Mhm.
and for the New York mayor's office. So his name's Edward Mermelstein. He
Mhm.
came on my show. Um, his wife's won 9 Tony Awards. They're like a total power couple,
Wow.
like New York power couple. Yeah, he was a triple threat um, litigator in Manhattan. So when the book was about to come out, I met with him at a private equity event, and he was like, "You should go back into real estate." And I was like, but I'm here to apply to join a biotech fund." And he was like, he stopped and he looked at me, and he's like 20 years older. He's like, "Look at me, kid. Like, your parents are real estate industry titans.
Mhm.
Most of the contacts that anyone needs in order to be successful in the real estate game, you have them, and they call
Already
you
done.
their goddaughter. And when you call them, they will literally move hundreds of millions of dollars to help you make a project successful. People spend a lifetime getting that. What are you doing going into biotech?" And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Brought you back to real estate.
So then, but I was like, I was still like a little bitter about some things that had happened when I'd worked with my parents in the past. So I was like, I'll come back into real estate, but I'm not working for my parents. Will you start a fund with me? And
Mhm.
he was like, I'm only investing in Ukraine. And I was like, none of my people want to go into investing in Ukraine. So then
Mhm.
he was like, you know what, start a fund with my brother,
Mhm.
because my brother invests in the US. So I tried over the summer, I tried starting a fund with his brother. It didn't work. It didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. So, but by the end of the summer, I had learned so much from working with his brother to prep this fund. And I had ended up getting so many investors who didn't like the deals that his brother had, but they loved my work ethic. They loved how I was honest. They loved like me as, and trusted me as a person. And then they were like, wait, Adi, because my husband and I have been investing ourselves like privately in real estate for a decade, more than a decade now, since 2016. Yeah,
Mhm.
so just over a decade. So we've just passed the decade mark. So they, so then they were like, we don't like him, we like you. Start a different fund with other people, and then we will invest in it.
Mhm.
And so that's how I ended up, yeah, that's how I ended up where I am now, where like people will come to me and they'll say, Adi, I want to start a fund with you. I'm bringing the seed investment, so they'll bring like the first 5 to 20 million. I'm bringing these people on the board, because I tell them, do not ask me to start a fund with you if you do not bring at least 2 board members that have at least 30 years of experience.
Yeah,
So
experience matter.
yeah, I need to know that you have people who have been working in this field almost as long as we've been alive.
Mhm.
Because if you're
Wow.
teachable, we can overcome anything, we can figure anything out. If you're stubborn and we have a problem, you're going to choose to protect your ego instead of protecting the investor's capital, and we're going to lose everything. And I don't lose everything.
That's true. I agree on that 100%. You said it very well. And then let's talk about the market cycles too, because that's the theme of our show today. So you have done so much and you've been through so many market cycles as well with your parents and as well as yourself too now, because you've been investing more than a decade yourself and you're raising tons of monies or connecting the dots with the wealthy allocators. So I just feel from my experience or the way I see the market is many investors, they fear market shifts and but I wanted to know from your experience, how do you personally view the market cycles? Is it like a risk or opportunity for you?
It's totally an opportunity. What you should be doing, I think this is the best way to think about it. You know how
Hmm.
children, you'll walk in the playground, and the adults will walk and they'll be looking around for the risks to make sure the kids are safe. But the kids bend down and they're looking at the bugs, and they're enamored by these small micro indicators of what's going on around
Hmm.
them. Whereas the adults are looking at the macros.
Hmm.
When you have someone who's passionate about an industry, They're looking at the bugs. They're looking at the micro indicators that flag that a macro shift is about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the very easy examples I use is when someone is they want to stay in a zip code. They don't want to expand geographically based on an asset class. They'd rather saturate the assets in a zip code. What I say is you should be taking your engineer, the engineer of the local developer, and the architect out for lunch or coffee once a month.
Mm-hmm.
If they're so happy with how business is going that they're like, let me get the check, you know that that asset class that they work in is strong
Mm-hmm.
and that you can be investing in that right now. It's a strong asset class. If they are saying, hey, business is a little bit tight right now, do you mind grabbing this one? If they do that 2 months in a row, sell that asset class.
And move on to something else. Okay.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because if business is slow for them and they've stopped building, the market is saturated because
Mm-hmm.
people continue to build until the market is fully saturated. Once the market is saturated, there's too much supply, there's not enough demand, and the value starts to go down. So if you're hanging out with the architect, you know when the saturation happens before everyone else.
Yeah, if they're knowledgeable enough, you have to find the right person too, because that's very important too. Because everybody's gonna give their perspective, whatever knowledge they have or whatever the database that they're relying on. So, but I wanted to ask you one question here. I love your mindset, the way
Yeah.
your journey been. Going to so many places, doing so many things in your lifetime. So, how important is mindset when you're navigating this uncertain markets or any uncertainty in your own life as well? I think that's what
Mindset's
is the
critical.
key thing that drives you.
Yeah, mindset is critical, and I will look out for it. If you notice, the people I surround myself with consistently, they're beasts. They're absolute and total beasts. Like people will just say it is insane. Like they look at a project and they're not saying, will this project turn out well? They're saying, I won't stop until this project turns out well. So they'll do their underwriting, they'll do their due diligence, they'll ask their 600 questions, but once they're locked in and committed to a project, they're going to go through hellfire and every other element to make
Mm-hmm.
sure it comes to fruition. And I'd say mindset is critical there because you can literally have I've been my own worst enemy with like being self-conscious about things, and it was really interesting. I tried working with this one friend for a while because I was like, it is way too easy for me to raise capital. There must be something wrong here because I raised over 900 million with one pitch deck and one speech in 1 month. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was more than 990 million. Yeah, but I was just like, something's wrong because everyone tells me capital raising is really hard. So then I joined this fund, and the guy was a total condescending jerk to the investors. Like they would come in super impressed with his track record, ready to work with him, excited, and he was just like a condescending jerk to them. They're not going to get to see what he's doing. He runs the show. Um, if they didn't like exactly how he was running it, they were utter morons. If they didn't like the asset class, he didn't say, you know what, let's look at another deal at a later time. Like this one doesn't seem like it's going to be the best for us to work on together because you're wanting more equity than we can give up, or you're wanting more control than we're able to give up at this time. So let's work on another deal together later. Like he wouldn't try to preserve the relationship with things like that most FOs do. And so I realized like my relationship with investors where I say, hey, the relationship's the most important thing first.
I
That was
agree.
the reason they would follow me, is because if something's not in their buy box and they didn't like it or they weren't comfortable with it, I would get whoever needed to be on the phone with them to answer whatever questions they had. And if those questions were answered and they still weren't comfortable with it, that was okay. We would move on to a different deal. They had to be crazy about the deal because they're the one putting hundreds of millions into it. If they're not crazy about it, I go to find someone who is.
I agree on that 100%. I think you said it very well because relationship comes first. But for I think most people who are in the capital markets or raising capital, it's very transactional or very dry approach because they think like, oh, this family office or this institutional investor, they got the money. Let me go show the deal and I'm just gonna get the money. And that's easy. And that's
Yeah.
make things much, much harder. And that's the reason people say, oh my God, it's so hard to raise capital in today's day. But no,
Yeah.
if you have the right relationships, and then it takes time to build the relationship, because you grow
Yeah.
into that. It's not like something is going to happen just like that. You met somebody and then somebody's going to write you $1 million check. That never happens. I haven't seen that at least.
Yeah, and you also have it's also a dance on both sides because there have been two times this past in the past 6 weeks where I have a young CEO who I view like a younger brother. Like
Hmm.
he plays sports the same way. He's super intense, workaholic, loves the grind, and there have been two separate times where family offices tried to be very predatory with him with his deal. One of them didn't want the project as a collateral, which is standard. They wanted his family's three generation farm as the collateral. And I was like, you're doing that just to be mean. And they were like, we're doing that because we can and we want to show him his place. And I was like, he has other people who are talking about investing in him. Like, you can't bully him. And so, like, they were out for blood. And he came to me, he's like, is this normal? And I was like, no, they're hazing you because you're new to the family, like the family office bubble. And he was like, I don't need family office money anymore. He was like, just kidding, I'm good. You keep your friends, and I'm gonna go over here. And he ended up getting like most of the financing through an Abu Dhabi bank, which I feel like was a major loss to the U.S. family offices, just because the one family office wanted to haze him, because he was new on the scene, like not new in the data center space, just new with the family offices. Then another one came in, and they said they were like, "We'll give you 250 million. It's a $13 billion project, right?" They were like, "We'll give you 250 million, but we want 51% equity."
Whoa.
I was like, "What do you think? If you're getting 51% equity on it for $250 million, what is the guy who's bringing the 13 billion supposed to get?"
I know,
Like,
exactly. I know, but
the
don't we
math
see that
is not adding
often?
up here.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but don't we see that often, when the family offices, they come join hands with you in any deal, they want the major portion of the deal or they want like more control on the deal. Is that the case all the time, or is there like
No,
something we were there
no.
too? Hmm.
When that happens, I'm like, you don't trust me as a GP.
Hmm.
Because when true LPs come in, they're like, I want, like, true LPs will say, hey, I like this deal, but how much of the GP do you have? And I'll say, oh, I
Hmm.
have 25 to 30%. And they're like, okay, good. Why? Because they know that I'll babysit and that I have a very high code of ethics that I follow. And I always follow, it's called the parable of the talents.
Hmm.
So, like, you're a steward of the investor's capital. Your
Exactly.
number one job is to fiercely protect their capital. Number two is to grow it.
Hmm.
Your loyalty is to invest protecting the investor's capital as if they're like one of your children that you're protecting from a lion, and the
Hmm.
market is the lion. So
Hmm.
when investors are saying that they need that much control, then I'm like, okay, so you don't want a GP, you want to be the operator, you want to be on the operations side. And there are families who want to do that. Like, look at me, I'm fifth generation, and I like to be in the battlefield. I don't want to be sitting in the office. So
Hmm.
what you need to find if you're an operator and you like to be in the game and playing the game and getting your hands dirty is you need to find people who don't want to get their hands dirty, or they're so busy with what they're doing and what they're having fun with that they're like, yes, I want to grow money. I like how you grow money. I like what you're investing in. It makes me sleep well at night knowing that it's ethical and it makes money. But I don't have time to babysit, so I'll just cut your fund a check. So the fund is a vehicle for people who trust you and want to make money with you watching the people that are making the money for them. If they don't want the fund to be investing through the fund, then that's a problem. That's a trust problem.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't look at them as an LP. I would put them in a different category. And later, if there's a deal where we need a co GP, they can come
Hmm.
in on that.
Interesting. So that's good. So if somebody's starting to build a relationship with the family offices or the institutional investors, what should they do the first thing? Not just going there with a pitch deck. I mean, I don't like it myself as somebody coming to me with a pitch deck because I remember I come from an IT background. I was IT executive for 20 years before I stepped into real estate. And I remember
Yeah,
first time when somebody came to me, I got on a call. So first thing she asked me, "Oh, what kind of returns you're looking for? Your distributions and what kind of upside you're looking for." I didn't have no clue what she was talking about, and I felt like, oh my God, if I ever do that, I'm never gonna do that to anybody. The first thing is
yeah.
to build a relationship, and that element was missing. So how would you advise somebody's looking to start building relationships?
Um, that's exactly what it is. The number one thing is building relationships. I had a gentleman, what was it? His name was Evan. He came to one of the family office events, and I hadn't approved him to. It was a happy hour. He came to the happy hour. I had not approved him. I had actually rejected his application. So he forced his way in, and he showed up with all these people to like show us that he was in charge and he was going to own our event. Meanwhile, he's not a sponsor. He didn't pay to be there. He's trying to drink for free, and he's trying to like to force my hand. And I was like, bad move. So he walked up and he's like, yeah, I don't actually like family office capital. I work with institutions and this and this. And he didn't realize how many Wall Street CEOs I have the personal cell phone number of. And the
Wow.
way he was speaking, none of them are going to answer that kid's phone call. So he's talking to me as if he clearly didn't realize who I know. Like, you have to keep in the mind that if someone is a multi-generational family office, their family is playing with the other top 10,000 most powerful people in this country, if not around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in acting like he owned the place and he was going to manhandle me. And he's like, yeah, family offices only write checks for around 100,000. And I'm thinking in my mind, and I was like, the family offices I work with don't write checks below 100 million. So he just admitted to me that no family office trusts him, and he's never worked with anything more than an accredited investor. So as soon as he said, oh, the family offices don't write checks above 100,000, I knew family offices don't
You
trust him.
do.
I should go into camouflage. So he asked, what do you do? And family offices have a camouflage mode. We've been taught this from a young age. We all have it. I say I work in marketing. Would you like a website built? And they're like, no, I thought this was a film. I pretend I'm selling website services. Um,
Exactly.
my my friend he invested in the first two rounds of OpenAI. He pretends he's an artist and asks if they'd like to buy a painting. One of my other friends, her family founded a this like one of the Fortune 1000s, and she'll say she works in PR. Do you need some speaking engagements booked for you? So we very quickly all shift from who we are to pretending we are nothing more than lowly service providers. So as soon as he said that, I turned to my friend, the other FOs, and I said, I was just telling him how I work in marketing and how I work in marketing, and I was wondering if he needed a website. Did you want to offer him some PR? So I just told her in 2 seconds, without him realizing who we were, that this is not someone we should trust, and we should all pretend we're low level employees. And with yeah, so he thought he could force his way into the meeting, and in 2 seconds we figured out he's a fake. We all pretend we're low level employees, and he left that event and he's like, there were no FOs there. It was all low level employees. It was like, yes, that's what we do. If you try to force your way in here and you try to manhandle us, you're gonna think no one's here. Like, you
That's
can't.
true.
You have to be nice. It's the relationships are the name of the game. We had a call this morning. The guy was a jerk to the CEO, and he's from another family office. And I try to be nice to family offices, but when you're going to tell the CEO of a $13 billion project that you own, you should get to 51% for 250 million. No, I was like, I'm sorry, just to give you full disclosure, we are shopping this with other places. And he's like, well, who do they have as the off taker? And it was like, the government. They're working with the US government. They have an off taker. They don't need you. They have the best, most reliable off taker on like in the country. And it was like, we were inviting you to have a seat at the table and take a slice of the pie. We weren't begging you to pay for the table, the dinner, and take the whole pie.
Hmm.
So it's
Wow,
the
interesting.
greed and the manhandling happens on both sides.
Yeah, and especially I like your camouflage strategy because I think that's very important because that way you can weed out whatever is not needed or does not align. Because the thing is, the people who have the vision, who are all rounders or who understand how to connect the dots, they're the only one who are gonna be coming to you or connecting with you because
Yeah.
they're the bigger picture person. They can understand how to connect the dots. They do not have the tunnel vision, you know. If
Yeah.
somebody has a tunnel vision, just like a small limited vision, they can only see this much, right? And that's very easy for to spot them out or weed them out. So let's talk about a little bit market too. One question, before we end this conversation. I know I can talk to you for hours, but we are kind of over time. So
Yeah.
how should investors think differently when investing across multiple cycles? Because like at current the market is like so uncertain and people are so skeptical. They do not know. They're kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for the right opportunity, and I just feel like there are so many opportunities. It's like they do not understand the market completely maybe, or they do not have the long-term vision.
Okay, this is, I think, the best visual to help you understand where you should sit in different market cycles. So,
Hmm.
you know how every time there's a professional soccer game, before the professionals come on to play, there's a group of high school and middle school kids who are like
Hmm.
training in a professional track who will go with them for the warm up. And then but then when the fans start to show up, those kids step off the field and the pros play the game.
Hmm.
So what we saw over the past several years, when the markets are easy, the kids are on the field with the pros. When there's blood in the streets because the markets are crashing, that is when the
Hmm.
children come off the field and the adults play the game. So when the markets start to crash, I get this adrenaline rush because I'm like, okay, my turn. Like, okay, you guys crashed the market. You made a bunch of mistakes. I told you not to do that. I told you not to. I literally told a friend, I was like, do not buy multifamily right now unless you're getting it for 60 to 75% off. And he's like, no, no, it's
Hmm.
fine. It's a really good deal. We're at a breakfast together. He walked up to me. His face was white. And I was like, what is it? He was like, I need to borrow $50 million. And I was like, what happened? He's like, do you remember that asset that you told me not to buy? And I was like, yes. He's like, well, I bought it. And I was like, uh-huh. And he's like, you were right. It's only worth 314,000 per door, and I paid 374,000 per door.
Hmm.
60,000 extra per door. Yeah, yeah, on a huge building. And I was just like when the markets are crashing, there are specific people who know how to move with uncanny precision, like surgical like precision through the chaos, cut it like a cake, very swift, very simple. They get the best parts out and they sit on the sidelines and they wait for those to appreciate and value. Everyone else is running around with their hair lit on fire. If someone is running around with their hair lit on fire right now, you don't want to invest with them. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to put your money in right now. If you see people like me, where we're getting excited because the market is crashing and it's our turn to take center stage and show you how the game is played, those are the people that you want to invest with right now because we know what to do when there's a crash.
Exactly. Hmm.
The paramedics, when there's a huge catastrophe happening, let the paramedics do their job, follow their instructions. Do not try to be a paramedic at that point. It is too late. You cannot learn to be a paramedic at the scene of the crime. So it's the time for the paramedics to shine
Wow, I love that. So, but how do you differentiate between a good deal and a bad deal at this time? So, what are
right
some
now.
of the indicators for you right now in this market? Because it's a down market, and I don't think, we already hit the rock bottom because people are still predicting it's not the rock bottom yet. They're still waiting. So, but I think there are still good deals in the market at this time as well. So,
I
how do you spot those deals?
I have a friend who just bought two very large multifamily buildings, one for 65% off, and the next week he bought another one for 70% off. So there are people right now who are realizing they're screwed. They cannot win. They cannot hold on any longer. They want to save their shirt, so they are selling at
Mhm.
70% off. And there are people who are holding on with like white knuckles, praying that the market turns around any minute. And they've been holding on with those white knuckles for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So you have people who realize it's a down market and they're going to sell to you at pennies on the dollar. Those are the people you talk to. Anyone that thinks that their asset is worth a lot more, does the underwriting match what they're claiming? There's a specific asset class. It's grocery anchored retail.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 2% of that asset class changes hands per year. It's the
Wow.
rarest asset class to be able to purchase.
Mm.
Those, if you are lucky enough to get one, they pencil out and they're pretty strong and solid. But if you're
Wow. So
going
you,
into multifamily, you have to be
mhm.
very careful right now because a lot of people have lost their shirt, their farm, and everything else.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, multifamily is just like, I don't know, it's kind of not doing very well in this market. But people, that's why I see a lot of people, they're pivoting to the other asset classes. And I'm not sure if retail is doing that well because the online channels are like super powerful in today's date.
What you have to look at is if the retail is integrated with a lot of restaurants or grocery. If it has a food component to it, the retail's doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of e-commerce companies notice is that their sales are 20% higher within a 5 to 15-mile radius of where they have a physical location. So
Mm-hmm.
Sephora has all these locations because they notice that their online sales are 20% higher when people know that they can go to the store to make a return.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So retail isn't dead as a whole. I would say that retail is dead where you have food deserts. So where you have places where there's no grocery store, where there are no restaurants, I wouldn't make a bet on retail. If you go into places where they have the top 20% purchasing power um, for the country, top 20% purchasing power, and they have grocery anchored, they have restaurants, they have things like that, that's where retail's doing well. Because think about it, if you go out to a restaurant, you're probably going to go to a few stores as you're going to walk past a few stores as you're going to your car.
Mm-hmm. That's true too. But I do see some of the grocery outlets, they are going out of business too. They're closing big stores.
Yeah, it's like if it's a Winn-Dixie, if it's a Food Lion, if it's a discount grocery store, I wouldn't bet the farm on that.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a Whole Foods, you can bet your bottom dollar that Whole Foods has really done their research before making a move into a place like that.
That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to if you're not good at underwriting, you want to follow people who are.
Mm-hmm.
So when I wasn't really good at market analytics in my 20s, the past creative director of Tiffany & Co., John Loring, I was moving around Europe and I was like, I have to move to Spain. I have to buy an apartment sight unseen, and then I'm living there for the next year. What's your recommendation? And he was like, Tiffany & Co. does extremely diligent market analysis before they open a store. So anytime you have to stay in any city around the world, you've never been there before, and you have to book to just fly in and stay there, stay within 5 blocks of a Tiffany & Co. You know it'll be a low crime rate.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they have done all the research for you. That's a good strategy right there. So we're
Yes.
gonna move on to our rapid fire round. So I'm gonna ask you 5 questions in the rapid fire. You're gonna
Okay.
answer spontaneously, one word or one sentence only. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, the first question is, what is one book that has shaped how you think about investing or in general in life?
Well, the book I had to write, probably that was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Oh.
That because you have to think about what everything that you think is obvious, other people don't. And so that I would write a chapter and then the editors would send it back to me with like 600 notes, and they were like, you thought way too many things were obvious that no one else does. You have to rewrite all of this. And so I'd be like, yeah, 5 pages covers that topic, and they're like 40 pages covers that topic. um yeah, but that's a hard question. What I would recommend is you read one book a week in psychology, business, and finance until you feel like you're a gladiator.
That's true. I agree on that. I think it's just like once you start increasing your perception, your experience, you're gonna see much more than the average people. And that's a
Yeah,
good advice right there. So, what is one daily habit that has been the biggest impact on your success?
ice baths every morning.
Oh,
As soon as I wake up, I roll out of bed and I go right into the ice bath for 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah,
No way.
yeah.
Really?
55
Oh my.
degrees. Yeah. 55-degree.
Ooh.
And then I've added other things to it. Like I do oil pulling with eucalyptus oil while I'm in the ice bath, and I do Pimsleur flashcards in a foreign language, any foreign language. So I'm learning 50 new words in a different language each morning, but doing the oil pulling, which prevents cavities and kills cavities, and in the ice bath. So I'm doing all three at the same time.
At the same time, oh my God, challenging yourself. Totally
Yeah.
out the box. So what is
Because
something? Go ahead.
like if you can push yourself through an ice bath, which is really hard, then anything else you have to do that day, you're like, this is so easy. Or if I like find myself like in like boxing myself from doing something, I'll go work out. And then as I'm doing the workout, I'm like, if I can blow through this workout, I can read through that contract. So
Oh
like
my
if you're
God.
stuck, work out, and then you'll notice that thing that had you stuck, you're no longer stuck with.
That's
Yeah.
true because I think it opens you up, even
Yeah.
though it's physical level we are doing, but ice bath, oh my God, 10 minutes. I can do only 40 seconds. I do that maybe twice a week, maybe my face in the ice water, just
Oh
like the
yeah.
face scrub. 40 seconds, maybe 60 seconds maximum. I cannot do more than that. Hats off to you.
I do the infrared mask and I do Korean skincare for my face.
What is something you're deeply passionate about outside of investing?
I'm very, very, very passionate about economic empowerment. I think that most people who commit a crime, they do so because they haven't found an honest and fair way to make money. And one thing that I was really passionate about when I was younger is, and that's why I built the software company, so I found that marketers would get frustrated when they weren't being fairly compensated. So then they'd become scammers because they'd use what they learned in marketing to scam people. So I would
Hmm.
try to save as many young marketers as possible. That's why I made that book. And I was like, here's how to make $10,000. Stop scamming people. Here's an honest way to take a business, pick a business idea and make 10 grand. But
Hmm.
yeah, so economic empowerment is a huge one for me.
That's a good one. So, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I got some real value bombs. That's hard. Currently, of the 11 most powerful, influential global leaders on Earth, like uh, of the 1,000, 11 of them are my mentors and advisors and godfathers, and they give some really good value bombs. Oh, you know what? One of them did. This one was a humbling one. I asked the international president of Rotary for one piece of advice before I started my speaking tour after the book hit bestseller, and she was like, um, "Get used to ugly selfies. It is not about you. It is about them, and you'll see the picture where you're like this, but they'll see the picture as, oh my god, I got a picture with this person I look up to." So
Nice.
that
Wow, that's a good
was
advice.
a really great piece of advice because after that I saw hundreds of really bad selfies post up online.
So don't sweat over little stuff, I guess. That's the best advice. What is your wealth vibe?
My wealth vibe, yeah, I guess finding the best in people and then connecting the best parts of both sides.
I like that. I like that. That's good. This is such a powerful conversation, Adi. I really loved everything, whatever you shared with me today, And you just not just talk about the market cycles only, you're like so open, shared your whole journey with us. I really appreciate that. So if people wanted to reach out to you, and now wanted to learn more about you, how can they do that? And also, you did mention to me earlier, I think you sent me a message that you have some kind of some 50% off offer for our listeners. You want to talk about that a little bit as well?
Oh, yeah. So it's we can do we can instead of 15%, we could do 20% off for listeners to get the Molo 9.
Okay.
To get the Molo 9, it's the proven path to profit. It teaches you how to pick from all of your ideas for businesses, pick the one that's going to be the best, the most profitable, and easiest to grow, and then to grow it into a profitable company. Because people who want to get into real estate, you need money to make money. So that teaches you how to make money with that. And then the best place to follow me would probably be LinkedIn. Um, and then I don't post as often as I used to. LinkedIn and YouTube, I think, are the two places where I'm most active.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I think the bottom line part of our conversation today is, whatever you think, that's what shapes you. I think every day, whatever you're doing, you're becoming something by doing that. So if this conversation resonated with you, please share with your colleagues, your friends, your family. And Addis, thank you so much for being part of our show. And to everybody who's listening today, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep building your wealth vibe.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wealth Vibe Show. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget your free gift. Download the Busy Professional's Guide to Real Estate Investing at loombainvest.com. See you next time with another amazing guest and another powerful conversation.